Hey everybody, Randy Reviews It here. So this is kind of a state of the industry address. I wanted to give my afterthoughts of goals. It's been a few weeks since goals and I haven't really put out a video on it. There was some cool stuff that I saw there and a lot of lackluster stuff, I guess, if you will. So let's just get into it. What was I looking to do at goals as I walked around for our media day? Met with some of these companies. There were a few companies that I wrote down that I wanted to hit up. So, for example, Def Grips was there, and I've done a video on their grips. Really like their grips. Check them out. They have like an interesting texture where it's not really like rough, but it's very tacky to your hand, but it doesn't like stick to your body when you're carrying and things like that. So that's really cool. But really my goal there was to see if any new AR-15 stuff came out, something that I might be able to talk about in an upcoming tier list. We do that in November. But there were a few companies. So the main one that I wanted to talk about was Mitchell Defense. So Mitchell Defense has been at a few events. I've never tried any of their stuff, and I still haven't had a chance. I missed the range day. I was working and couldn't get away, that sort of thing. But Mitchell Defense, I spoke with them for a bit at Goals. They have some really cool stuff and good theory behind it. So Mitchell Defense is a company created by, I believe, Marsoc is what he said, former Marsoc guys. And what they do different than all these other AR-15 companies, or I guess what he was telling me, is he worked in the oil fields in kind of post-military career is what he gave me kind of the spiel. If I'm wrong about that, maybe he worked there before. He can let me know, but I'm pretty sure it was after. But he basically said he took what he learned with, being in the military and things like that, and then in the oil fields, like nothing takes a beating like their equipment. Like they have to run. They have to keep running this stuff. They need the most lifespan and durability and functionality out of their equipment. If you have to keep changing parts on oil drilling equipment, it's not going to be a good time. So what he did is he looked up what they were using for coatings and things like that. And he basically says, if we can create less friction in the gun, then there's going to be less wear on the parts and less potential issues. So what they started with in their guns is, I don't know if it's a proprietary coating, but they coat the entire inside of their gun. They coat the parts and things like that inside with a coating that has a very, very, very low friction rate compared to everything else on the market, supposedly. And because of that, their wear is significantly less. Their guns can handle things a little bit better. They don't need as much oil, things like that. They're running really good. He gave me a number that said they went 20,000 rounds without a stoppage or anything like that, or that on their test. What's also with Mitchell Defense, so the coating is one thing. That's step one. So very cool. On paper, in logic and everything like that, that makes sense to me. If parts aren't rubbing as hard, they're not going to wear as bad. It's just logic. That friction coefficient is important in all things. That's why, people are doing DLC parts. That's why you see people doing nickel and full chrome and some of these other ones. But yeah, like all those different coatings, the tin, all that stuff, the TIN, titanium nitride, yeah. So they're trying to lower friction. Mitchell Defense uses a different method, and by all accounts, they swear by it. They say it's improved. The other thing they're doing is like a flat wire spring in their buffer system and a little bit of a different buffer, where if you go back to a video, I had a Midwest Industries gun that had like 13,000 rounds on it. I've since got rid of that. But at 9,000 rounds, I talk about having to change the buffer spring, because when it started short stroking at about 9,000 rounds, I was like, what's going on here? I took the buffer spring out and I bought a new buffer spring because that's what they said it probably was. Sure enough, my old buffer spring was about 1.5 inches shorter than like a standard mil-spec buffer spring. So as those springs wear, they start having less and less tension, and usually, you know, you're looking at like 7,000 or 8,000 rounds. I think I got 9,000 out of mine before it started causing issues. But you have to change those buffers. You have the JP system, which is very expensive and, in my opinion, not really worth it. You have Geisley doing a braided spring. Springco springs are good, but, you know, they're still kind of like the standard style spring. What Mitchell Defense does is they have a flat wire spring, and he said 20,000 rounds they got out on that spring and they didn't have issues. So that's pretty wild. Last but not least with Mitchell Defense, and I know it's been like 6 minutes of just Mitchell Defense. There's more here. Stick around. But, and maybe I'll make chapters on this to make it easier on you guys. But with Mitchell Defense, they also have a handguard. And this has got pretty interesting too. So a handguard where it's got like kind of a heat sink to it. And the way that they've designed it is almost like Arctic or Yeti type things, where it's not vacuum, but there's an air cushion in between things. And what he described to me, I'm really interested. I'd love to give their stuff a try. I'm hopefully going to look into that and work something out. But they have a heat sink in there, and he says that they can shoot their gun and their upper receiver will heat up at a faster rate than their handguard, which if you shoot AR-15s, that's typically not the case. Typically the handguard, especially right next to the gas block, will start getting hot before an upper receiver does. Like it'll just get hotter quicker, that sort of thing. So it's really interesting to see people doing new stuff. And also, you know, like they can make these claims, but we need to verify. So I'm hoping we start seeing more videos on Mitchell Defense that I don't just want to make a video and have it be anecdotal. I'd like to see more YouTubers make videos on it. So I hope their presence at Goals was met with a big audience and a bunch of people got interested in their stuff. Number 2, Fostech. So my buddy Jake over at TN Tactical, he knows I'm a fan of, you know, ultralight alloys, things like that. And I've shown him my V7 300 Blackout before, and he's like, you know, that's wild. So he came in and grabbed me. He's like, you got to see this. And I believe he actually has one already. But the Fostech is making AR-15s. They're famous for their Origin 12 shotgun. You know, big, wild, semi-automatic shotgun that's crazy priced, but a crazy type of space gun. It's cool. But they're making ARs out of a magnesium alloy, and they're really, really light, but they're still very reasonably priced. So Fostech has a few of these coming out. Go check out their site. But when I picked one up, yes, they're very light. They're very cool. The magnesium alloy is a mix, so it's not full magnesium. I know BCM used to, I think they still do some magnesium rails. Maybe I'm wrong, but they definitely used to do magnesium rails. V7 has done some magnesium rails. They're ultra light. They stand up pretty well to things, but they don't necessarily hold up the same way as aluminum. But Fostech seems to be using an alloy. So if you're looking for a lightweight AR-15 and it's still reasonably priced, you know, V7s, I get it. I think they're probably the best AR-15 maker out on the market, and they're the only ones that have that lithium aluminum. It's pretty wild, but I understand that not everyone wants to spend $3,000 on an AR-15. So Fostech's out there. You should check them out. Next, Irregular Design Group was there. They had the Hesychia 6. So I got to spend a lot of time with that, look at its attachment methods. They talked about some interesting things. So a lot of times they brought up that people who make muzzle devices, it might be a different steel than what the suppressor is. So you got an Inconel suppressor, maybe a steel muzzle device. Those heat up at different rates and can potentially cause issues. Well, with the Hesychia system and how it attaches, it has an Inconel muzzle device. It's all 3D printed. The suppressor is all 3D printed. It looks cool. I've seen some videos on it. The tone is wild. I really like the tone that I've seen so far in the videos. It looks cool. It's a little bit pricier. I believe it's above $1,000, but I think I might want one. It's really cool. Irregular Design Group, if you don't know, is I believe it's Sean and Slade. I believe his name was Sean. But Slade makes, they've had Irregular Defense Group for a while, and you know, the SC Irregulars and stuff like that. They make hard goods, soft goods, all of those types of things. It's my favorite AR-15 grip is the Irregular Defense one. I like their stuff. I like what they're doing. I think they're really trying to bring innovation and technology to things. So it's really cool seeing their can, because what's wild about it is within the suppressor itself, there's these, you know, blades on there that have 3D printed kind of detents in there, but there's no springs. So no springs will wear out in this thing. And it's all 3D printed with those detents in there, and it just ratchets on. And that's really wild to me. So it's like you've created a ratcheting system with no springs or tension, like with like a ball bearing or, you know, some type of spring detent in there or anything like that. They've done it all with 3D printing. So it's very, very cool. There was Troy Industries was there, and I was interested in checking out Troy Industries because they've been around for a while. My buddy Logan swears by them, and they're in Tennessee. So Troy Industries was there. They had very reasonably priced stuff. Very like durable. They talked about a few contracts they may or may not have gotten. I'm not gonna name drop or anything like that. But the Troy Industry stuff, they make a lot of their stuff in-house. It was really cool. It was good to see. And last but not least, so on my AR-15 tier list videos, everyone tells me, check out Patriot Ordnance, POF. Check them out. My cousin has one of their 308 guns. I think it's like the Warhog, where it's got like tusks cut into the handguard, which I'm not a fan of the tusks. Like putting sharp objects on my gun for aesthetics is not ideal. But they make a lot of piston guns. They make DI guns. Their DI guns do have adjustable blocks on them, and they're very, very reasonably priced. I want to say we were looking at, they're in that mid-tier slot, maybe even less than $1,500 on some of their guns. So if you're looking for an adjustable, whether it be piston or DI gun, I've heard a lot of good things, especially from you guys, and I appreciate all the comments on those. But yeah, check out POF. I'm hoping to maybe do some stuff with them, if not this year, maybe next year. But definitely check out their stuff. It's interesting. So yeah, that was my goals recap. My friend Johnny B spoke on some panels. My friend Jared was there, spoke on some panels as well. They both did great. Jared got an award like he always does. He always gets awards. But it was fun. I got to see a lot of people. I got to hang out with Legally Armed America. Paul was great. Got to hang out with him. All the Brownells crew, Gloctopus, Caleb, Cody, that whole crew. Got to hang out with them. Mr. Guns and Gear was there. Got to hang out with him. So it was a really good time. I enjoyed myself. I talked to some cool people there. Shout out to Ruben the Cuban at Unique ARs for having a cigar with me. Fun time. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you can make goals next year. I believe it's in Iowa. So yeah, I'm going to try to make that myself. It would be cool to see you there. Yeah, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Take care, everyone.